Hey guys, welcome back to Rather Be Visin. My name is Sam, and today we're going to be taking a look at include and exclude level of detail calculations. So in a previous video we covered fixed level of detail calculations, and today we're going to take a look at the other two types of LoDs, which is the include and the exclude, and these both have different uses, so let's take a look at exactly what they do. So just to recap what we mean when we say level of detail, as we drag in dimensions into our view, we are splitting out our view. We're taking it down to a lower level of detail. So at the moment, I've got my region, I've got my segment, I've got my category, and I've got my sales on text. So I'm aggregating up my sales for the category, segment, and region. And if I take out category, I'm now aggregating it up for region and segment. And if I take out segment, I'm now having a look just at region. And finally, if I take that out, I'm having a look at the sum of my sales across my entire data set. Now, level of detail calculations allow you to either fix your calculation at a certain dimension or dimensions, or you can exclude and include different dimensions in order to get different results and carry out your analysis. So let's have a look at an exclude level of detail to start off with. So here, I've got my region, I've got my category, I've got my subcategory, and then I've got my quarter. Now, I might want to see what is the sum of my subcategory over the entire date range rather than just the quarters, but I also want to include quarters within my view. So the way that I can do that is I can create a calculated field, and I'm going to call this exclude quarter. And again, as we know, with a level of detail, we start off with that curly bracket, and this time we're going to type exclude. And then we're just going to drag in our quarter from the shelf into the view. Now, when you're doing level of detail calculations, it can be quite handy just to drag your fields in from what you already have in the view, just to make sure you're pulling in the correct dimension. So I'm going to exclude my quarter, and then I'm going to say I want to sum my sales. And so what this is going to do is it is going to ignore the date that we've got in here, and it's going to sum my sales. So it's going to include all the other dimensions that I have within here. It's just going to ignore the date field. So if I say OK to that, and I bring that in, we can now see that we've got the values coming down, and we've got 4 different values which we'd expect to see. But if we just hover over our sales here, we can see that for bookcases, we should have a value of 196347, and that's exactly what we've got here. So essentially what we're doing is we are ignoring that this column exists. We're basically saying to Tableau, ignore that that one's in there and carry out my calculation based on what is in the view. So if we were to take out subcategory, we can see that now we are getting the same, when we're excluding the quarter, we're getting the same value across all of these because we've just got furniture in there. If I edit my filter here and I bring in my office supplies, you'll see we now get the sum of our office supplies against that one. So exclude is really useful if, for whatever reason, you have a table of data or you have a chart where you need to include the more granular information and also roll it up. And much like fixed, you don't just have to exclude one field. So if we edit this one, we might want to also exclude our subcategory. And if I apply that, you can see that this is now doing the sum across my entire category here. So I've now got when I hover over these, I've got my 470359. So this is really useful if you're going to be adding and removing dimensions into your view and you just want to exclude certain dimensions that you have. So unlike a fixed, whereas if we were to try and do this through a fixed, if I just take my exclude here, I'm going to duplicate it, and let's change this into a fixed. So we'll say fixed. We'll call it fixed quarter, even though we're not necessarily fixing it the quarter. And so rather than excluding, we're actually just going to switch the exclude into fixed. And then we're going to say I want to fix this at the region and the category level, because that is essentially what our exclude is doing in this view. If I bring that in, you can see at the moment we've got the same value. So because we have fixed this calculation to look at region and category, then when we sum these up, we get the 470,359. That's the same that we get for our fixed calculation and for our exclude calculation. So these are essentially at the moment doing the same calculation. But now if I bring in segment and I drop that into the view, you'll see that my fixed is still bringing through that 470,359, and that's because it is still working out my sales based on central and furniture. So if I come down here and I sum these up all the way down, you can see I get that 470,359. But our exclude, because it is just excluding the subcategory and the quarter, and now we brought in the segment, it's actually doing the sum here. So that's the 250,458. So exclude is really useful if you want to still continue to split out your view, but you also want to show the rolled up level to a certain point. So if you want to exclude a couple of these dimensions. Now the other way of using a level of detail calculation is doing an include calculation. So let's have a look at what that looks like. So here again, I've got my region, my category, my subcategory, and my quarter, and I've got sales coming across through all of those. Now, if I wanted to actually split this out and also show what is our average customer sales, the way that I would do that is create a calculated field here, and I'd call this customer sales. And again, start off with that curly bracket, and this time we're going to include the customer name, and then we'll pull through our sales. Make sure that we have aggregated our sales. And so what this is doing now is for each customer, it's going to carry out the sum of sales. So if we click OK on that, and then we bring in our customer sales, you'll see at the moment we have got the same value, and that's because we are summing up all of those values and then we're bringing it in as a sum. What we can do here, if we change this to be an average, we're now having a look at the average customer sales, and if we average our sales here, you can see that we get slightly different values, and that's because our average, when we've aggregated the sales across our whole data set, is adding up all the sales and then dividing it by the number of rows that we have within our data set. Whereas when we're having a look, when we're including that extra information of the customer name, it's taking each individual customer's sales and then dividing it by the number of customers we have. So our value is slightly higher because there will be less customers than there are rows in the data. So this has given us a more accurate indication of what our average customer sales is. And because we've not got customer within the view, using that include allows us to pull in that level of detail without having to show it in the view or have it on detail or something like that. Another way that we could do this is we could also do average region sales. So I take my customer sales, let's duplicate that, and let's edit it to actually include region. And this time we'll call it regional sales. And I'll bring in my regional sales. You can see that has given us the same value that we had previously because we've got the region in here. But what we can do is we can now change this to an average, and we can take out our region, and if we remove it from the filters, we can now see what our average regional sales is. So across our three regions, what is the average? So while our sales here in total is the 59,000, when we have a look at that across three of our three regions, then our average sales for the quarter is about 19,000. So that is include and exclude level of detail calculations. Hopefully that was useful. If it was, please do let me know in the comments down below. Like, comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff. And I'll catch you in the next video. Cheers for watching.